All right, let's take a look at the worms today. We got our first hot day of the summer, and you can see it too. Look at this. Woo! A bunch of the, I don't know, squash or maybe some kind of melon or gourd seeds germinated. Uh, yeah, they thought it was quite warm summertime for them to come up. Unfortunately, they're just gonna be worm chow now. Uh, but yeah, warm day. I'm feeding these guys, and we're gonna be out for a little bit. So I'm a little bit concerned leaving them, not because of food or water or anything, just because of temperature. That's the main consideration with a worm bin, because they can go quite a long time, just sort of reprocessing the things you fed them. They won't grow in terms of population as quickly if they don't have abundant food, but they won't die off anytime quickly. However, if it does just straight up get too hot, um, then that can be a big problem for them. So I do leave these in the shade. I do not have them in direct sun, and I'm not gonna harvest today either because I want as much volume here as possible so that they have plenty of room to get away. So normally I harvest over here, I feed over here. That way all the worms like to hang out on this side because this is where all the fresh food is. And so when it's time to harvest, there's not as many worms in there. I think partially because today's hot, I'm seeing a few more worms on this side because there's no breaking down food, so it's just cooler over here. So I see more worms over here than I normally do. Another good reason not to harvest today. But yeah, this is I'm reaching down, and it's not hot, but it's definitely warmer than it normally is all the way through the bin. So I'm gonna leave them as much volume as possible so they have as much ability to escape the heat as possible. If I were around and it gets really hot, one of the things I can do is put like a water bottle in the freezer, and so it freezes, so it's like an ice pack. And then I can add that here. That's something I can do to like save, keep them from dying out in like the very very peak of a heat wave. Hopefully we won't get that in these next couple of weeks because like I said, won't be around. But yeah, these finished worm castings look great. You see a lot of worms running off here where it's a little bit cooler because there's no food breaking down. Food breaking down generates heat. All the bacteria doing their work, and so they were sort of on their own little kind of vacation. Oh yeah, lots of worms here too. Yeah, they're not where the food is. Yeah, that's a good chunk of worms. I've never seen so many so far from the food. I mean, in the winter they like the heat from the food breaking down. Also, as I go through here, I do like a moisture check. The moisture as of now is quite good, so I won't have to do anything in terms of adding more moisture. If it gets too moist, sometimes I add extra bedding. It's not quite there. It's just about right. But I'm seeing a good number of worms. There aren't quite as many worms in this bin as in my other one. So I'm, in a way, surprised I'm seeing just so many. I'm wondering if by the time I get over to the food, if I'm just not going to see worms there. Yeah, I like how I can see the young ones too. I'm pretty sure like when I first started raising worms, I didn't see young worms for like Must have been almost a year. I think I probably, lost most of the adult population of the first bag of worms I got without them reproducing. It took me a while to figure it out, get it right. Which is one of the reasons why people say, don't start by buying a giant bag of worms. Just buy some while you figure it out. I definitely didn't listen to that, although I probably should have. All right. So far, so good. Okay, so normally the section, where I fed 2 weeks ago is where I see all of the worms right over here. So I'm gonna, let's see how much food is left over. We'll check on that one because we don't want to give them more food than they can eat. But at the same time, I'm just kind of curious. Oh no, there's a good number of worms in here. Population in this bin must just be increasing. It happens. Yeah, I'm seeing some. Oh, and it is warmer. When I feel down, I can feel how much warmer it is. I mean, there's still a good amount of worms over here. Maybe not a giant ball of them like I sometimes see. And I'm not seeing a whole lot of big pieces of food either. I see some of the harder stuff for them to do, like carrots. I mean, you can totally feed them carrots. I'm clearly doing it. The reason why some things are there's some things that are just bad for them. You should never feed them. But then there's also some things on the, kind of more maybe list. Just because it takes them longer to break it down. They don't go through it as quickly. And you can get them to break more stuff down if you give them stuff that's easier to break down. That's mostly what it comes to. So I'll mix some of it in, but like I said, I want them to break all stuff down. I want to be able to use what they make for my garden. So I try to not give them too much of that kind of stuff. Okay. Yeah, but it looks like they did a good job going through most of it. So I'm going to start by adding some new bedding. So this is just cardboard that I have shredded. Very good. The bedding's nice, place for them to live. It soaks up some of the excess moisture from the food that I'm about to give them, so it doesn't get overly moist. So it does that job. The other job it does is it gives them a place to crawl through that they like to crawl through. And the third job it does is to give them an emergency food supply. They can go and they eat the carbon from the cardboard and the bacteria breaking it down. It's definitely not their preferred source. It's not the first thing they're gonna eat, but it's like a emergency food reserve that won't rot. So it's good to have it, and they will get through it by the time all of this stuff makes it over to the other side of the bin. So to their bedding, I always add in my coffee grounds from the week, and then here is some eggshells. This is just ground up so that it helps them digest their food because they have gizzards just like birds. And then lastly, I'm going to add in the food scraps from the week. So some of it is a little frozen because we keep it in the freezer. And when there's too much, I like to only put a single layer down and then throw some of the worms on top and then put the rest. That way there's not a big clump of scraps that they can't get access to. So this way they can have 360-degree access to all of the kitchen scraps. Sort of just breaks it up. Then I sort of bury it, tuck it in. It also helps it from getting too hot, right? We want the worms to eat it. We don't want it to rot, because if it gets too hot, they will avoid it. So does all of those things, and then to finish up, I'm gonna tuck them in, and then someone was asking me like, oh my god, if I travel, will my worms be okay? Yeah, they will. I mean, the one thing I worry about is the heat, but aside from that, this bin, I could leave this bin like here for months and it would be fine when I came and checked on it. Population maybe wouldn't grow as quickly as if I feed it every other week, but you don't need to touch it at all more than once every 2 weeks, and it can go much, much longer than that, and they'll still be in there surviving. All right, I'll see you in 2 weeks.